Welcome to Shoulda Known. I'm Venomous, and with me as always is my heterosexual life mate,
Titan.
On today's episode, we're going to be discussing artificial intelligence.
So both of us work in a tech-based job, so we both have our own opinions, some of the pros and some cons of what artificial intelligence can do for us and what it might do to us.
Very topical topic, and a little bit of a departure of the type of stuff that we normally discuss, because normally we talk about things that we have a ton of experience in or have some sort of a life lesson that we've learned from. This deviates from that, where we're going to be talking about our opinions on something that's pretty bleeding edge. So I'm really excited about today's discussion. As always, we'd love to interact with you, so please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. So what's up with this AI thing?
I'm going to start with that ad that I sent you the other day, because I think it might be a good way to kind of lead. So you saw the video for the AI pen that came out, the wearable AI, and something like that. I think is a cool idea. I think the concept of having that assistant, if you will, that, you're like, summarize my emails or whatever. And it catch me up, I think, was the key words. And it like basically summarizes everything for you so that you don't have to like read through everything. All right. That's kind of cool. And there's some other really interesting things that they did there, but I don't know how much that is true AI versus just kind of machine learning. Like I get confused sometimes in the difference between what's machine learning versus AI. And when I think AI, I think The Matrix, I think Terminator. I think that's kind of where most people think is true artificial intelligence. And I understand that that's the singularity.
We're not there yet.
Where?
So that ad, man, or that demo, whatever that was, I saw it before. I had seen it before you sent it to me. And I had a very strong reaction to it that I did not articulate over text. Or maybe I did, and I just didn't do a great job at it. It was one of the worst product demonstrations I've ever seen in my entire life. Let's talk about the merits of the technology and some of the ideas behind it. So I think the general idea is interesting. A different take on a personal assistant.
Yes.
I don't know if that particular form factor is really where we need the innovation to happen. So by that I mean, like, today everyone has a cell phone, and all the things that they demonstrated were things that I can do today through my cell phone, and it really didn't add a whole lot. It was very cool to see some of the things that did. Like I like the idea of it kind of looked like the communicator from Star Trek, which I thought was pretty cool. I like the fact that you can use it as a way to more easily talk to folks in other languages. I thought that was pretty neat. I think that it's pretty neat that it is in a small form factor like that. I also think that it was designed well. I don't think it's an ugly device. I think some people may think it's an ugly device. I'm not one of those. I actually like the way that it was designed. And I also thought it was kind of neat how it's not just a camera, but it's also a projector that you can use to project things onto like your hand or onto a wall or whatever. But I just don't really understand the use case that they're solving for. And it's not so I'll say this. Sometimes it's not terrible to be in this situation, because there have been other products that took a while to take off or didn't have a really clear initial use case, and then they found it. So that's, so I think that there's hope there.
Right.
But right now, from what I saw, I think that particular device is dead on arrival. It's doing some interesting things, but I just think that the form factor is wrong.
So to me, I think that the concept is definitely cool to not have to have your phone, be able to do all those things with that assistant. I use Siri quite a lot.
She's always in the room.
Shut up, Siri. In the room with me. Woke up. But so I use, she's always listening. So I use her a lot through CarPlay and through all these other different methods. Putting stuff on our grocery list, scheduling stuff on the calendar sometimes when I don't have my phone in my hands, or maybe I'm doing other things. That part is great. The thing I don't understand is, there's so many use cases where it's like, okay, yeah, that's great to not have to have your phone, but there's so many more where you're going to want that screen. I saw an article that said their best way is if Apple were to take this Humane company and buy it, basically, for a lot of this AI architecture that they built, quote unquote, from the ground up, and incorporate it into a AR type device. So you could put that thing in your pocket, but you'd have some visual through an AR, augmented reality glasses. To bring us back to the AI portion of it, it's only as good as they've programmed it to be at this moment. That's where I get into that. Is it really AI right now? Take the person on the Apple device in the room with me right now. She does pretty good, but there's some things she's not so great at. And I have an Alexa, an Echo device. Yeah. And she's also good at some things, but not at others. And so like yesterday I was going to the grocery store and I wonder what time they closed. And I was like, well, let me just try Alexa and see if she can tell me. And she did right away. She was like, oh yeah, the grocery store on this road closes at 11 o'clock tonight. Whereas Siri would have been like, here's your, information regarding that store or something like that sometimes. So they both have their strengths and their weaknesses. So that's where AI is not AI at this moment. ChatGPT is getting there, and other iterations similar to ChatGPT are pretty cool. I've used it for, some work stuff when it's like a boilerplate documentation type things that I don't want to type all that out. It's like, hey, here's this paragraph, make it a page. It does a really good job filling it up, and doing that. That's my opinion of where we are now with it.
Yeah. So I think that, so if you look at where Siri is today, Siri to me, has been one of Apple's most wasted opportunities. They bought this little company that had a really neat little personal assistant app on their app store. And they decided, okay, great, we're going to buy it up. This is going to be really cool. People are going to love it. And they decided that they were going to take features out of Siri and not include them in the Apple version. So they took this really great app, cut it down a bit, probably tried to simplify it and focus on some of the things that they knew Siri could do really, really well, and not focus as much on the things that it couldn't do quite as well yet. And the innovation just completely stopped. They bought the app, right? Pared it down a bit, got it more focused, refreshed the user interface a couple of times. And from my, as an end user who's been using Siri since day one, it's one of the dumbest personal assistant apps that you can use. Period. It just is.
Come on. What about Bixby?
Bixby, I haven't really used it, but I think isn't Bixby wasn't that founded by the same founders of Siri?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I think it was.
I don't even know. I just know that no one ever talks about Bixby at all.
Could you try again?
R.I.P. Here we go. I don't know if you heard that.
R.I.P.
Cortana. My phone just
I knew
that I was talking smack about it.
Your mouth moved actually.
Yeah.
When it came across. It was kind of cool.
But yeah, wasted opportunity.
I was going to say a good example, I think, to me, of where I would see it is I would be closer to true AI. Maybe that's where that AI pen is. Maybe the AI pen is getting closer. Is, for example, I'm in my car and I'm driving and I'm like, take me to the nearest fast food restaurant, and I give it a chain or whatever. And it won't it tells, like, it doesn't recognize which way I'm going. It doesn't recognize the fact that I already have directions going home. Like, none of that. It just says, oh, here's one, but it's behind me. You know what I mean? It's like the opposite direction. That's not what I wanted. And I think more of a true AI would know that, hey, I'm headed south on this road. I'm on my way home. And I will obviously want to hit one that's on the way, not, 5 miles behind me. So I think that's where something like this seemed during their presentation like might be hard enough to do that. But I think the other side of it is that in order to truly use that device and its AI stuff, you still have to go to a computer to look at your photos, to do, a lot of things and check your emails, because it's going to miss stuff as it learns what's important to you. So I don't know.
So, I mean, this stuff is just going to get better and better. ChatGPT is like the queen of the ball right now. And it's really great. So if you boil down generative AI, what it does is it predicts the next token in a sequence of tokens. So if you think about it from each token is a word. So it takes your input, it analyzes your input, and then the output is essentially what words, sequence of words come next as part of a response. Yeah. So that's what it does. Like that's a simple dummy, 101 level to a way of describing how that type of technology works. The more and more data that you feed it, the better and better it's going to get. So of course, the problem with AI and the problem that we've had so far is we just haven't had enough data. So data is what's super important when you're talking about AI. Right now, when I look at the companies that have data, Apple has a ton of data. A lot of that data is on your phone or in iCloud and whatnot. Google has a ton of data. Twitter has a ton of data. Microsoft has a ton of data, right? So who has the data? The data ultimately is going to dictate how success, in my opinion, is going to dictate the level of success that your AI model is going to have. And so right now, I just named those companies. Those are all the companies that are working on generative AI at a from a at scale, right? Like these are the ones that are really kind of digging in deep. And that technology is just going to get better and better. And essentially, at some point, we're going to have what's called generalized AI, where it's going to learn from different ways of learning at once. So it's not just going to be generative in what I just described, which is what's the next token in the sequence. It's going to be able to learn from other different learning models. And it's going to be super smart. It's going to have more context. It's going to solve some of the issues that you talked about. Because you're right, like the context of the personal assistants and the AI stuff that we're using today is very limited in context because they're not always on.
Of course,
they're not always on. So that's something that I think over time, we're all gonna basically give all of our privacy away in order to train these AI models to be better and better and do what we want them to do and perform the way that we want them to perform.
So what are your thoughts as far as how AI, as it's going, and predictions that people are making regarding how it's going to infiltrate or take over the workforce?
I don't see this as being too different than some of the other technology leaps that we've already made. New technology will spring up. An industry or several industries are going to evolve or no longer be here. And the folks that are directly working within those industries are either going to fall into two buckets. Bucket number one is you're going to be ultra productive because now you're going to have this productivity enhancer. Bucket number two is you're going to be out looking for new skills. And when these changes happen, like new industries spring up. There's new needs to be filled. And so I think it's going to take some time for people to make that adjustment. But I don't see it as a negative thing. I don't see it as doom and gloom. Everything evolves, everything changes. What drives me crazy is we've got these technological leaps, and then you have large portions of society that get all bent out of shape because, oh man, now you're taking our jobs away. You can't take our jobs away. And and in some cases, there is a level of unfairness. So let me coach that. The statements that I just made a little bit. There's got to be a certain amount of fairness. So, for example, looking at the Screen Actors Guild, there is the potential of AI eliminating some jobs. There just are. Right? Now, are those jobs being eliminated because it's using your data as an actor and creating an AI generated version of a character that you are playing? Or is it just randomly generating, actors out of thin air, right? And putting those digital actors in place, which, by the way, we're already doing that, right? Like, we're already doing that. When you see like large crowds in a movie, like, that's how we're doing it, right? We're replicating, we're creating these 3D models, inserting them into a scene, animating them, blah, blah, blah. So to me, there's really not that much of a difference. So the fairness to me comes if I, as an individual, if my likeness, if there's attributes of me that are being used to create an artificial actor, then I should be compensated for that some way. So again, right? Like these things are disruptive. They're going to be. So you got to be ready for it, and you got to be supportive of people, so that way they're ready to make the change. But you shouldn't hold it back. It's to me, it's just it does not benefit mankind if you just hold things back because you're used to doing things in an old-fashioned way. You should be striving to put protections in place for everyone. Like YouTube, for example, they just released this very week. Actually, I just saw it today. Rules about how artificial or how content generated using AI is labeled in YouTube. So if you're using AI for certain things in YouTube videos, you've got to label it now. Like, that's a protection that you're putting in place. Same thing applies to anything else, too. Right? We've got to sit down and think these things through. And instead of saying, no, we can't do this and running away from it, we should double down and say, hey, how can we protect people and make this so it's equitable for everyone? So that's my perspective on it.
But I think that's where some of the problems lie in some ways. So take AI, and the way I look at it, you're going to see a huge drop. The people are going to be impacted the most. People that can be replaced with data entry things. I mean, honestly, most of your, like, take IT consulting, for example. If it's really true good AI, replace most of your IT consultants. You'll still have some, still have a need. What you would then have, though, is people that need to know how to interact with the AI or to make it do those tasks, right? But here's where I think the protections are going to fail. Because right now, it's up to those companies to put those in place. And even then, it's up to the person uploading the video to say, yep, this was AI-generated content. Fair. I don't know how they really know if it was or not, right? So it's up to the person. But the issue is, this is going to get a little political, but it's actually kind of bipartisan, in my opinion. People in charge of our country are too out of touch. They have no knowledge of technology, and they don't get the people who do have the knowledge involved. Case in point, the internet. How poorly, and I'm not saying need to be regulated, but there does need to be some safeguards in place in some ways. And because there wasn't, because they didn't understand it, they still don't. I mean, watch anytime they interview an IT, or a tech exec, right? It is hilarious because none of them get it. At least none of the ones that are, 60 plus.
Not at all.
Like, it's ridiculous. And so I think that let's say AI does disrupt a lot more than we think it will. Let's say that maybe it takes longer for it to really get there, but in 20, 30 years, it really does get rid of a lot of normal jobs. That's where I think the concept of basic income has to come into play and things like that, where it's like, people have to get something in order to survive. And then maybe they utilize their time that they have free now because they're not trying to work to make it. They're able to, maybe learn more artistic stuff. Because while AI can do some generated art thing, it is not that good at it. And that's where I think that beings will always supersede AI is from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's going to be a certain point where AI art is going to be indistinguishable. What we're seeing right now, think about it this way: that type of AI is like a 5-year-old. That's what you're dealing with. Like AI right now is like barely 5 years old. I would probably argue it's probably like 5 months old. And so I think it's just over time, it's just you're going to feed it more data. We're going to create more data. AI is going to consume AI data, and it's just going to get better and better. And I think eventually it's going to be indistinguishable from human art. But
I think it'll only be as good as what you put into it, right? It won't be able to create its own. Like take Van Gogh, right? When Van Gogh started his thing, it's its own style of painting. It came about after that, Impressionist stuff like that. That's right. I'm not an art person.
It's all right. Neither am I.
Discussed earlier in a previous episode. But they have like some of these people. They came up with their own new styles. I don't see AI coming up with its own new style, whether it's in art or even writing. It'll use the voices that it's learned, not its own voice. But maybe when it becomes a true singularity, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be able to create its own style. We iterate on each other. That's all we do. We improve upon each other as time goes on. We learn from each other. We get better at things. We take a step or two forward, and then the next generation does the same thing. They learn from us to take a step or two forward, so on and so forth. And I don't see why AI couldn't do that. When AI gets to be good enough, it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be just like us, which is where we've got to put some safeguards around AI. AI is going to be a reflection, to your point, it's going to be a reflection of their creators. And eventually it's going to be it's going to be able to process data at such a quick speed that it's going to overcome us. It's going to supersede our capabilities. And once that happens, that's where I think we're going to start seeing it being creative. It's going to create new styles of art. It's going to be able to create new styles of music, but at the same time, it's also going to be able to do very nasty things to us humans because it may see us as being plagues on the planet, right? Or being destructive. So I think, and because it's a reflection of humanity, and humanity does some really messy, bad things, there's a big danger that that's what could happen when AI reaches that level. And that's one of the things Elon Musk, love him or hate him, that's one of the things that he's afraid of that's going to happen. And I think that I think we need to really consider that very, very deeply because it very well could happen.
Yeah. It's I do feel that there's definitely a possibility that it goes very, very badly. Whether it's the just trying to wipe out humanity, or it's the wiping out humanity to protect itself from itself, or whatever. It definitely could. And the scary thing is that while different groups and people are trying to create something like this, or take it and change it for their own purpose, That's where it gets a little dangerous. And as computing will become more and more powerful, especially when you start talking about quantum computing, things like that, it's going to be the next 20 to 30 years is going to be either really cool or really bad.
It's going to be interesting, to say the least. So, like there are people out there that, excuse me, there's people out there that scare me a little bit, that are in positions of power that just are not quite as cautious. I don't know if you listen to Lex Friedman, but he recently interviewed Elon Musk for like the fourth freaking time. And Elon Musk told a story about about how he and Larry Page used to be really good friends and yada yada yada. And he was discussing one of the I think it was one of the last conversations that he had with Larry Page. And at the time, Elon Musk, he was one of the co-founders of OpenAI, which eventually, like, Microsoft ended up kind of taking over that, and Elon kind of rolled off of it. And he was trying to hire this super genius, like, AI expert to be the architect over at OpenAI. And it was Google and OpenAI were both talking to him and trying to recruit him. And somehow the conversation, I don't remember all the details right now, so I'm probably like screwing up the story. But somehow the conversation went along the lines of like Elon, saying that we need to put some safeguards in place. And Larry Page was like, "Wait, are you a speciesist?" And Elon's like, "Wait, what? A speciesist? But yeah, I mean, like, whose side do you think I'm on?" Right? Like, so Larry Page, freaking co-founder of Google, crazy rich, influential guy, he doesn't care about humanity, is what I just got out of that, right? Like, he doesn't care about the consequences of AI on humanity, and doesn't believe in guardrails, which to me is just mind-blowing. So we got people like that. Those people scare the crap out of me.
Right, because they will just, that's where science in general can get a little dangerous if the people that are involved aren't being smart about it. Yep. But hey, another version of science where we could be doing better is cloning, because the U.S., at least in the U.S., put such a kibosh on cloning. As far as I know, I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah,
and we should be being able to clone organs right now. So if you need a transplant, they just pop it in a petri dish and make it for you. Anyways, well, on that lovely note of don't care about. Well, we know they don't really care about people, but they don't even care about themselves. It sounds like.
Right? It's like counterintuitive. I mean, it's like going out to the wilderness and making yourself look like a big fat steak to wolves, right? Like, you're out there like, "Hey, wolf, come and get me. I'm delicious. Blah blah blah. I have A1 sprinkled all over my body." And like just being eaten alive by a wolf. Like, that's just stupidity.
On that fun note, any closing thoughts?
Yeah. So I guess the only thing, and I think we've kind of touched on this, is that I think at some point, we're gonna, as a species, our immortality is gonna be AI. And to get there, there's gonna be a lot of. And the AI pin really highlighted this one piece for me, which is that AI pin is always on you. It's seeing what you see, right?
Yep.
It's taking in the environment around it, and at some point, all of that data is going to feed an artificial intelligence that's going to be a duplicate of you. So get used to the idea of just giving away your privacy completely, and in exchange of eternal life, because that's what eternal life is going to look like for humanity, if there is such a thing as eternal life, you know. So anyway, but yeah, and then the whole guardrails thing. We do, I'm of the belief that let's keep advancing, keep moving forward, and get people ready for the inevitable. Don't fight the inevitable, but let's make sure that we have the safeguards in place so that humanity is still around, 200 years from now or 300 years from now. What are your thoughts, brother?
Yeah, for me, two things. One, I'll share this nugget of info. I believe it's AI.gov. It's a website trying to get people involved, U.S. to, basically to help build our own people up, with the skills and skills to learn how to truly build AI and operate it and all these different things, right? And so I put it out there as you mentioned, there will be some people affected, but that's where you've got to pivot and get those new skills. Those in-demand skills is going to be understanding how these things. So there's like all kinds of options on that site for internship or whatever. So just some information out there for whoever. And secondly, another thing. So, I mean, I don't really have, it's kind of scary, I guess, in a way. So on your iPhone, it has a machine learning ability on the phone to learn your voice. And I mean in a way that it can actually, it will sound like you. So when you can text and it'll say it out loud so people can hear you. And it's for people that are dying and may lose the ability to speak. But it's good enough it can break voice recognition passwords. But it, at this moment, at least on Apple, does exist only on your phone. You program it by saying a bunch of phrases, like 150 phrases, and then it basically takes like 6 hours to do it. And you can't basically touch it while it's doing it. But anyways, it's kind of scary because in the future, that's going to not be on that device. That will be something that's out in the world. And voice recognition will not be available anymore because people can hack your voice.
All right, guys, so that is it for today's episode. We're going to be releasing these bi-weekly, as we always try to do, but only get about 50% of the time, as a video YouTube and as an audio version on all podcasting platforms. So if you like the content of today, please make sure you subscribe and check out the links in the description for more content like this. Bye for now. Till the next one.
Bye.
Bye.